Hi again, everybody. My name is Greg Anderson, and this is the Good Timekeeping Show with Greg Anderson. And today I want to talk about this watch here. This is a version of the GW2320 by Casio G-Shock watch. I've got a few others of these, and at first I wasn't that impressed by the illustrations, but seeing them close up and in person, I like these watches a lot. So the 2320 is very similar to the 2310. Okay, almost the same module. This one's a little bit updated, but does all the same things pretty much. This one here I modified by buying a kit so I could put a metal bracelet on it. But this is the more standard one you'll see, 2310. This is the 2320. Now this is part of what they call a fire package pair of watches. So it kind of matches the color and stylings of this AWG M100 watch. And I've bought fire package watches before. See, here's one from just a few years ago. This set here. And then I've got this set here. Sometimes I've only purchased, the analog version of whatever the fire package was that year. This is the last year I bought. I only bought the digital version. This was part of a fire package watch. And then I modified this one with a genuine Casio bracelet, a metal bracelet that was made to go with this 2320 or 2310 case of watch. So, I've had a little bit of fun with these, and this is just the latest one. Now, if you look at these two together, you'll see there's a little bit of a purple, kind of a lavender hue on the bezel here that looks like and feels like it's a metal piece there. And I wasn't sure that particular shade of purple went with anything that I have. I wondered if that was going to work out. But, taken out of context, if you don't really see this up against anything else, it just looks like some kind of stainless steel or titanium or just some kind of shade of color that would just happen on plain metal. But it is a little bit of a purple cast. Otherwise, it's the same concept of these fire packages, two watches each year that kind of go together. And in the past, the fire package collections that they've put out are kind of a Japanese only release. And I kind of had to search on eBay and some other sources to get these. But this year in particular, this has worked out okay. These fire package watches were also available directly from Amazon or from the Casio website. $160 for this analog digital one here, and $150 for this guy here. And they came out, earlier in the year, like February, somewhere in there. And here I am in August, right? 6 months later. But I waited to get a deal. And what I found was JCPenney had a deal on this one where it was down to around $120. And that's when I decided to buy this. And then just a few weeks ago, in the middle of the summer, this one at Amazon was down to $109.50. And that's when I bought this one. But you can readily find them if you're not looking for the best bargain, but you just really love them and you want to pay, just pay a little bit more. These are readily available for $160 and $150 right now. But I'm going to concentrate on this one right now, the digital part of the fire package collection, and I'll tell you about its functions and features. First of all, fully resin bezel and the band there. The case is resin, but it has that what is typical on some of these G-Shock watches, this kind of stamped metal case back that's held on by 4 screws. And it's tough enough for me. It works great. It's 200-meter water resistance and all the other legendary G-Shock, shock-resistant functions and features and attributes of the watch. As I said last year, I was able to find kind of a little bit of a kit to go with a genuine G-Shock watch band replacement to put a metal bracelet on this one. It was a little bit of a hassle and it was a little bit hard to find those pieces, so I don't know if I can ever do that again. And I don't know that I really need to, but I wanted to try it. But this is one I got also that was kind of a more universal adapter that I could put in there and then have this metal bracelet to go on this guy here. It makes it a little bit heavier and bulkier perhaps to have that kit. But I think this one I'll just leave as is. When it comes to these fire package watches, something that always attracts me is the main functions here: multiband 6 and tough solar. So this watch has a solar cell built into the face of the watch. It will charge itself automatically with just regular exposure to everyday lighting conditions. So if I use this watch, it will stay charged. If I'm not using it, not wearing it, I just leave it in a place where it gets some light every day and it stays charged. Up here is a high, medium, and low indicator in this little window here, and it stays high. PS for power save, and that CHG means that if it gets really low on the power, that'll start blinking and telling you, hey, it's running out of power. You really need to put this in some light and charge it up. So that's what that little circle up there means. Multiband 6 means there's a built-in radio receiver in this watch, and it will set itself to the right time by receiving atomic time information from any of 6 transmitters in different parts of the world. So there are 2 of them in Japan, a third one in China. Then there's also the UK and Germany, and then number 6, but number 1 to me is WWVB in Colorado. So I only live about 350 miles from WWVB's transmitter, and so this usually does great at receiving atomic time information every night and making sure that it's correct, hours, minutes, and seconds, right down to the second. It also automatically receives the date information from that. This LT that you can see in the display means that the automatic light is enabled, and that means that when you turn this up towards your face, there's a little motion sensor inside, and it will turn on the backlight for just a couple seconds there, so you can see that automatically if you have LT enabled. So, and then that little bell means that the hourly chime or hourly signal is enabled, so it beeps every hour on the hour. And I kind of like that, especially when I have all my watches perfectly synchronized with the atomic clock and they all beep at the same time at the top of every hour. Okay, so this is what you're going to see here. Let's go to the different modes and show you what they do. So this is the regular timekeeping mode, and that's what you see. Also, if you push that reverse button up there, you can also have a second time zone displayed at the same time. I've got that set to UTC. So I've got, if you're one of those people that maybe you do business on a regular basis with someone in a different time zone and you want to know what time it is there, or maybe you're traveling, or maybe you just like to have, if you're a pilot, for example, and you want Zulu time up there and your local time there, that's something you can easily do, or press that button and you have, the date and the day of the week in that position instead. So let's see, mode. Okay, next mode is the world time mode, and this was where I select the other time zone that I want to be displayed in my world time mode. So if I press the forward button down here, it's as though I'm going eastward on the map, and I can select other time zones that way. And let's see, if I press reverse, then it goes the opposite direction. So I can go all the way around the world selecting other time zones for my second time zone display. Another neat trick is if I'm somewhere around the world, I don't know where, that's Sydney, okay, so if I just kind of get lost there and I press these 2 buttons together, that will go ahead and reset it to UTC as the default time zone for my world time mode. Now, if I press this button to the next mode, this is my alarm and signal mode. And you can see that I also have the local time displayed right there. So hourly signal, I can turn that on or off by using this button up here. If I want to set one of the other alarms, I can turn that on or off, just by doing those buttons there. It's very similar to what you would find on a lot of other watches. This 5th alarm is a snooze alarm. So even though it has 5 alarms, the 5th one, snooze alarm, it will repeat every 5 minutes for, I think it's half an hour if you don't stop it. And that's with the snooze feature there. So I can turn that on or off. And if I want to change the time there, it's very similar to other watches you may be familiar with. You can just easily set the hours and minutes, using those buttons there. So I'll reset that later. Okay, next mode is your stopwatch mode. And this will show you hours, minutes, seconds, and hundredths of a second. And then you have split time up here. So very similar to what you're used to on a lot of digital watches. This one will go all the way up to 24 hours. And when it reaches 24 hours, it resets to 0 and just keeps on going until you stop and reset it. So that's something you can do there. Then there's the countdown timer. And you can set this to whatever number of hours and minutes you like, up to 24 hours. If you set this to all zeros and start it off, it will be a true 24-hour countdown timer. And there you go. Those are all the main functions and features there. Now, if I'm back in the regular timekeeping mode and I want to set this watch up for the first time, I press and hold the adjust button until things start to blink. And this is where I set my time zone. That'll be named after a major city in my time zone. So in my case, the Mountain Time Zone, Denver is the city I choose. But again, using the forward and reverse buttons, forward, it's as though you're going eastward on the map, and reverse, it's as though you're going westward on the map. And when you set a time zone, that also is telling the multiband 6 receiver which of the transmitters it should be listening to. So, that will have an effect there. If I'm in England, but for the fun of it, I set my time to Denver, then it's going to be trying to listen to WWVB, and I'm over in England, and it will be out of range. So that's something to keep track of as far as if you really want this to be using multiband 6 and having the right time zone, you set that up. Next, if I press the mode button, go to my next setup here. This is daylight saving time. So DST is blinking right there. It can automatically show the changes for daylight saving time, or always have daylight saving time off, or always on. And that may be something we'll deal with here in the United States. They keep threatening to do permanent daylight saving time. And if that were to happen, then I could just set it to always on and we'd have permanent daylight saving time. But if I were in Arizona, I would leave that on always off. And that would be happening right now because, in Arizona, they don't have daylight saving time in most of the state, except I guess some of the Navajo areas. I don't know. It's fun, but I don't want to overwhelm you with all the different little details and get too lost in the weeds on how daylight saving time works all around everywhere. Okay, but if I press mode again, that's where I can choose either the 12-hour or 24-hour display. So that will affect all the modes of the watch if I want a 12-hour or 24-hour display. Then here I can manually set the hours, minutes, seconds, the date, and the year. And so if I do that, if I manually set it, then the watch will automatically override my manual setting to whatever the real time and date are when it's able to receive multiband 6 information. But if I, for some reason, decide I want to set it manually, this is where I can do that. So again, hours, seconds, hours, minutes, the year, the month, and the date. Okay, next, key. Now this is kind of nice because when you press the button to change modes or to start and stop a stopwatch, and it beeps almost every time you press a button when it says key right there and has like a little musical note. But I can mute that, and then when I mute that, it doesn't completely turn off all the sounds that the watch is making, but it stops it from beeping every time you press a button. And when it's in mute, you'll still hear the alarms. You'll still hear the hourly signal. You'll still hear a beep at the end of a countdown timer. But other than that, it's not making any other beeps or noises when you're using it. So I kind of like to keep it in mute. Like if I'm in the middle of a meeting or something and I want to discreetly change modes on my watch without beep, 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 then I have it in mute. Okay. And then this is where you can set the duration of the backlight. So the backlight button is right there, the one with the G on it. And when you press that, the backlight's going to stay on for either 3 seconds or 1.5 seconds, and that's where you set that duration. And power save. Power save means that in order to save battery power, after 10 o'clock at night, when you're not wearing the watch and it's in the dark, it will automatically shut off the display to save power. And then if it kind of goes into a sleep state. If you want to take it out of that sleep state, all you have to do is press any button, or you can wiggle the watch because it has that motion sensor inside of it, or you can expose it to a good bright light source or just regular room lighting, and it'll come back on anyway. But if again, you just have it in the dark and you're not wearing it, it'll go to sleep temporarily with that power save enabled, and that's everything it does there. Now these watches here, I've had these for a few years. This one in the middle is the 2310. These two are part of Fire Package Collections. These are 2320 models, but these all use the same module, and that's module 3195. And they have electroluminescent backlights. Now, when I bought this one here, this is actually a different module and it has a different backlight. It has an LED backlight, and this is module 3537. This new one, the new Fire Package one, also uses the same module. It's 3537, but the backlight on this one is distinctly different from the backlight on this one. So it's kind of fun that they're playing with backlights. Looking at the backlight on this watch, it's very interesting because it starts to look like it's a negative display. You get the lighter characters against a dark background. Now the same watch, or the same module with the previous version of it, just has the LED backlight, that stays kind of that positive display. So it's interesting that this watch here on the right, that is a positive display LCD watch, but the backlight makes it look like a negative display. So it's very interesting to compare the two right there. Now compare them with the previous model that used the electroluminescent backlight, and you can see there's quite a difference there between the different versions. This is what the watch looks like on my wrist. A lot of people are interested in that. I've got about a 7.5-inch wrist, so there's not a lot of extra spaces there on the strap to, if I had a much larger wrist than this, but if you have it smaller than this, it should be fine. It's a relatively comfortable, lightweight watch. And I have to say, in my experience with a lot of Casio watches, this one included, tends to look even better in person than it does in pictures. So I hope I'm doing it some justice right now. And you may have noticed sometimes it seems like the contrast, it gets a little washed out here depending on the viewing angle. And that's, again, something that's kind of a little trick of my lighting and my camera. But in just everyday real world use, I think the contrast is just fine on this watch. If you're curious about the weight of the watch, I show it right, 64 grams, more or less. Compare that to, say, this analog digital one, a little bit lighter at 53. Here's a G-Shock Square, again, 55. This isn't the most accurate scale in the world, but, close enough for comparison. And there's a Casio Duro with a metal bracelet weighing in quite a bit more. So, again, not quite as lightweight as a G-Shock Square, but not that much more. And so I find it to be very comfortable and perfectly acceptable as far as weight and size goes. And there you go. If you're not that much into the color, you could probably get this one here with more of a chrome looking bezel. And you could get this one with a standard resin band and save a little bit of money. Or, if you want to pay a little bit more for this kind of special Fire Package version, you can get this from the Casio website or from Amazon, or look around and maybe see if you can find some bargains on this guy here. And of course, it's part of the package deal with this guy if you want to get them both and have your matching watches for your own fashion statement. But perfectly acceptable and fun to have even all by itself. I love tough solar. I love multi-band 6 accurate watches that are pretty much trouble-free. And this one is a great addition to my collection. And I hope I've helped you in case you were considering this. This is what it looks like. This is what it does. And, if this helps you to make up your mind whether or not you're going to get one, I'm happy to help. And I'll have more videos coming up soon. I got to do, get a little more in depth on this guy here, right? So that'll be coming up soon in another episode of the Good Timekeeping Show.